Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back from the break. Okay, good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. Okay. My name is Megan Davis, and I will be the moderator for this morning session called Invertebrates and also Marine Litter. And so we have a few virtual speakers, and also we have speakers that are here in person. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Our first speaker with Stephen Nimrod is a virtual presentation, and he'll be talking about a comparative analysis of historical and recently harvested queen conch populations in southern Grenada, West Indies.
Hello, my name is Steve Nimrod, and I would like to share the findings of some research we did where we made a comparative analysis of historical and recently harvested queen conch populations in southern Grenada. Now, by way of introduction, queen conch, Lobatus gigas, formerly known as Strumbus gigas, is a large edible marine mollusk or a large edible marine snail. Now, this is a delicacy in many of the Caribbean islands, and in fact, it forms a major fisheries across the Caribbean. Over the years, queen conch fisheries has experienced a change in harvesting practices, where we see that fishers historically used to collect queen conch via free diving in usually rowing boats or with small engines. And this was largely because queen conchs were harvested in the nearshore area. And when the fishers collected the queen conch, they would then bring them to the shores and process them and usually discard of the shells, as can be seen here in this image. Now, with the increase in demand for queen conch, we see that fishers are going further offshore now and are going deeper, where they're using scuba to collect the queen conch, as well as we've seen the increase in outboard engines in terms of larger engines. Additionally, with the increase in distance, what the fishers are doing now is they are processing the queen conch out at sea. And with that, they're ultimately discarding the shells offshore. And this is attributed to the excess weight that they would have to carry in the boats and the associated fuel consumption. Now, with this change in harvesting practice, we see that it brings its own challenges. And one of the main challenges that this change in harvesting practice has brought is that we are unable to really monitor the harvested populations of queen conch. And this, as you can see with the streamlined method, we're losing a lot of valuable data. And this is where we have the shells being left out at sea, and we're unable to collect this valuable data. However, not all is lost, and there are some opportunities still for us to do some monitoring. In fact, the fossil records from previous stockpiles of these discarded shells, which we normally see in bays around the coastlines like we saw in the previous photos, these can actually serve as very important baselines to help with monitoring changes in the fisheries. Now, we have actually embraced this opportunity, and as such, one of the things we decided to do here with this study is to compare queen conch catches across different timelines using the same discarded shells, and we use that in a twofold manner. The first is to measure or monitor age and maturity and make that comparison over time. But secondly, we also studied the shells a little closer and was able to document some of the changes in shell morphology that we found over time and in different environments. Now, our study was conducted in Grenada, on the island of Grenada, which is one of the southernmost Caribbean islands. And in fact, the study area for this within Grenada is along the southern coast. If you look at this map here, most of our data came from two sort of sites. When we say sites in terms of ranges. So we had the nearshore areas, which was within a 2-mile radius, and we had the offshore sites, which the fishers collected the conchs at 13 miles offshore. So as indicated here, you can see the sort of 13-mile radius compared to the 2-mile radius, which we consider nearshore. Now, in the nearshore area, we had two sites. One was a historical site where fishers discarded conch shells up to about the 1980s. And then we had a recent pile, which you saw in the earlier photo in an area called Hog Island, where this pile actually started from 2016 until present. However, we collected that data in 2020. And just last year, in 2023, we received samples from the offshore area, which is out at a 13-mile radius out here. So those are where our samples came from for this study. What we did is we collected 100 shells from the two stockpiles, the two previous stockpiles. So we randomly selected 100 shells. And with the offshore site, we asked the fishers to bring the first 10 shells from their catches. And we collected this over time from the fishers in that area until we got our 100 shell sample size. With those shells, we measured the lengths of the shells using a measuring board, as can be seen here. We also took the shell lip thickness using a caliper, and we also took the weights of the shells. Now, in terms of our major findings, we use shell lip thickness as a proxy to measure age and maturity. And in doing so, we got some very interesting findings. What we notice here is that the offshore recent site, so the shells we collected last year from the guys who went at the 13-mile radius, they actually had the oldest and more mature conchs. So that site had the older, more mature conchs, while we saw that the historical nearshore site had the second oldest or older mature conchs. What was also interesting is that the nearshore sites, we saw that the recent nearshore site, it moved from catching older mature conchs to very young and immature conchs. Now, we believe this can be largely attributed to fishing pressure or overfishing. And with the ease of access in the nearshore area, we see that these sites are vulnerable to overfishing. What this also tells us is that we do have old mature conchs. However, you would have to go out in the offshore areas to get it. And I think this is sort of common with the trend we've seen now, in that fishers have to go further out to get the larger, more mature conch. Now, to further illustrate this point here, we broke down the conch shell measurements into size classes. And this further illustrates that the offshore recent site, the majority of the shells were pretty much mature conch, with very few being immature. We saw that the historical nearshore site had a bit of a spread where we saw a fair bit of it being mature conchs, And also we had some immature conchs being harvested. But again, what was quite alarming is that in the nearshore area in recent times, we see that the majority of the catches being immature conch. Now, we saw earlier that the offshore site had the older, more mature conch. But what was very interesting here is that despite being older or having more older, more mature conch, we see that the other site, which is the historical nearshore site, they had the heavier and larger shells. So despite being older and more mature, the offshore side had the smaller, lighter shells. And we thought this was very interesting. And after looking at this, we had two theories that came out. And one of the theories was sort of, postulated by the fishers. And they suggested that the offshore sites, the conchs are in much stronger currents, water currents. And as such, these conchs out there tend to have more streamlined shells in that they would have a smaller, lighter shell as compared to the conchs that they would see in the nearshore area, where the waters are much more tranquil. So I guess they're able to carry a heavier shell. So the ones in the stronger currents use the lighter shells for more maneuverability in that environment. Now that is one of the theories put forward. The other, we're wondering here if it may be a case of reduced calcification, and reduced calcification possibly associated with ocean acidification and warming temperatures. But at this point, we would have to conduct further studies to really determine this in terms of more detailed experiments, really assessing those factors. But we thought it was a very interesting find that the older, more mature conchs out in the deep had the smaller, lighter shells. Now, by way of conclusion, what this study allowed us to do is to highlight the importance of these fossil libraries that we have lying around the coastline in terms of these discarded conch shells piles. We see these as a mechanism that we can use to monitor change in the conch fisheries. Additionally, it has also allowed us to observe how climate and other environmental factors may impact shell morphology and by default or by extension, growth and development in the queen conch. So with this, we'd like to thank you all for your attention and like to acknowledge some of our colleagues and students who assisted with this research. I'd like to say thank you all.
Okay, we have Stephen available, so we have time for questions.
Thank you. Very nice presentation. I was wondering whether you looked at the width of the shell and also the length of the spines, because you could be getting different morphologies depending on the, what you're looking at is the juvenile growth environment that then gets kind of frozen when they mature. And one of the differences you can have is how tightly the animals are coiled. So you can get a shorter size by coiling your shell tighter. And also, anyway, if you're having this more larger difference in morphology, you could also talk about where the conchs are originally settling and growing as juveniles.
Do we have Stephen available? Good point, Rich. Thank you. Do you have any other comments or questions?
thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't listen for the areas. So when you said onshore and offshore, what were the distances? 2 miles, and offshore it was until
Yeah.
13. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you again, Stephen, for your participation. Our next speaker, we can give another applause for Stephen. Okay, our next speaker is Robinson Bazurto, and he'll be talking about the influence of coastal water quality on the success of microalgae growth and queen conch larval development. Thank you, Robinson.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Robinson Basurto, as Megan said. I'm working with the Queen Conch Lab, Florida Atlantic University, Harbor Branch in Florida. So as Megan mentioned, and I'm gonna talk today about the influence of coastal water quality in the Caribbean on the success of microalgae growth and queen conch larvae development. So I wanna show you the three starts of our conversation. The first picture is a beautiful coastal water. It's a Discovery Bay in Jamaica. On your left side on the bottom, a beautiful algae culture, some Ketocero and isocrisis. And on the top, the start of our conversation, which is the Queen Conch Belliger, stage 3, 6 beautiful lobes. So why water quality is important for us? First of all, water quality is a key element of the success of our community-based partnership restoration effort. We, as a Queen Conch team, has a huge dream. It's a huge dream that started with Megan, which is have an operation in all of the Caribbean countries that you see in this map. We already started with some of the countries that we work in, but we want to expand it. And in order to expand it, we had to have a good water quality, which is going worse and worse every day, and you hear it in all of the talks. Everybody's talking about water quality. Second, water quality in some way is the key or the ticket or the pass to ensure the recovery of the queen conch species and also the resilience of the ecosystem. We can do everything we wanted. We can put coral back, we can put conch back, fish back, but if we don't do anything to stop the pollution of the water, never is gonna work, because always gonna have the stress of the animal cannot, or the ecosystem cannot recover it. So third, and a very critical one, is a water quality in some way safeguards the livelihood of the people who depend on fishery. In this case, we're talking about the queen conch, either from the economic aspect or from the nutritional aspect. So Dalila mentioned in her conference on Monday, she did a really good picture about what is happening now with the coastal water, with all of the pollution we have. I'm not gonna go in detail of that thing. I'm just gonna mention 3 of them. The first one is the agriculture runoff. So agriculture has been impacted our water dramatically because the agriculture use a pesticide, herbicide, some of them has a surfactant. They're running into the river running into the coast, creating a big problem and a big issue. The second one that everybody mentioned in the conversation in all of the talks on Monday is climate change. Rising temperature is pressure the species to migrate deeper and deeper on the water. We see, for example, in Puerto Rico, when I have conversation with fishermen, that they say many years ago, like 20, 30 years ago, they used to harvest a queen conch like very near the shore. Now they had to go deeper, about like 90 or 100 feet deep. So also the plastics, pollution with plastic that affect the light penetration and affect the algae growth, that is really critical and important for the some organisms. It's part of the food chain of the organisms, or it's a toxic, or it's transferring in the food chain from the small animals to the big animals. So for us, it's critical. It supports larval development and survival. If we don't have that luxury or have a good water quality, we're not able to produce algae that is fundamental to feed the larvae conch. We're not going to have a good development of the larvae, so we're not going to have animals to put it back into the ocean and continue with our restoration program. Reduce disease risks. because, for example, high temperature promote bacteria that can be pathogenic, or ammonia present in the water can promote pathogenic bacteria like Vibrio that produce high mortality across different species. It maintains the organism's physiological balance. For example, high salinities stress the animal, and suddenly the animal stops to eating and die. Maintain metabolical process. For example, pH, very critical and important for enzymatic process inside the cells. Essential for algal growth. If we don't produce a good quality algae, we're going to transfer that lack of nutrition to the animal. We're not going to have strong animals to put it back into the ocean for our restoration project. They're going to die. They're not going to survive. So, and promote sustainable aquaculture. Very critical today. Aquaculture, I want you to don't think about aquaculture about food production for people. Aquaculture has been a valuable tool for restoration programs and conservation programs. So some of these, I don't want to go in detail of the parameters, but I want to show you the parameters important for growing a quincunx larvae and for algal growth. This is the optimal parameters that we learned through literature and through years of experience working for different organisms. What I really want to talk is about what happens when you are outside of those ranges. For example, what happens when the temperature is high in the algae growth? You start promoting bacteria. Bacteria auto-compete for nutrients against algae, so grow better. And when you transfer those to your animals, to your quincunx larvae, they're not going to develop, they're going to die because it's a high levels of bacteria in the water. In the last presentation, he mentioned pH, very important for the shell development. Alkalinity. So if we don't have the right alkalinity, the animal is not going to develop a strong shell, and we're going to have issues with the development of the animals from the beginning, from the larvae stage. So what we do? So we visit places, people call us and say, oh, we want to have your program, we like what you do, it's amazing. So we need to first analyze the water. So we need quick methods that give us the idea if the water or the place that we choose has healthy water. So we use our own organisms. We use algae, and we use the quincunx larvae. So from the algae perspective, we're looking for density, quality. We have a control for many, many years in Harbor Branch. We know our species very well. We know the density that they're supposed to be at day 4 or day 7. We identify the quality and factors that determine the quality of the algae. It allows us to determine if the place that we choose has the right water quality or not. From the larvae perspective, we're looking for developed. Are they developed fine? Are they in stage 3? Are they have the right lobes? Are they eating? Are they under stress or not? So when we're able to detect in a quick biosave if the water quality that we choose has some issues, maybe has some issues, we do another step. And normally we do it with most of the water. We send samples to the lab for nutrients analysis like total nitrogen, ammonia, phosphates, for heavy metals, for pesticides or herbicides that give us the idea if we see any problem in the biosave, what it is, and how can we design if the place is suitable for our operation, how can we add in something in our water treatment system that improve the quality of the water and make it suitable for what we want to do. So we have a different option. We can use, for example, bag filters or car filters to remove suspended solids from the water. That has been an issue in most of the coastal waters. So we can use activated carbon for remove organic dissolved compounds, or sometimes low levels of pesticides or herbicides that are present in the water because they run off water from agriculture. Or we can use chillers because with the temperature issue in all of the coastal water, in some places we cannot run the operation in the summertime where the temperature of the ocean water is 32, 33 in some places. So chiller allow us to drop the temperature to 28 and we can work, or 27, 28, and we can manipulate the temperature. If it's the issue, because it's lower than 27, we can use the 27, we can use heaters. So we can manipulate some of the factors and provide the good water quality for the organism to grow or for develop our operation. But in some places, we can say that is not suitable for what we want to do because the water is so dramatically polluted that we cannot do anything. So what we have done so far until today with the projects that we have across the Caribbean. For example, in Grand Bahama, in Jamaica, and Curacao, we had to add in our water treatment system back filter and car filter because the suspended solid was too high. What happened with the suspended solids, they attach to the larvae get stressed, stop eating, produce a mucus. The mucus covered the animal go to the bottom and die, just because they suspended solids in the water. In Grand Bahamas and Great Exuma, we have issues during the summertime where the temperature achieve about like 32 or more than 32, so we add chillers. In that way, we can keep the water continually in the range of 27 to 28. Right condition for the larvae, right condition for the algae. In Puerto Rico and Florida, we designed a more complex system. We use activated carbon. We use a chiller, and also we have reservoirs where we can manipulate the salinity. If the salinity is low, especially when it's raining, so we can increase the salinity to 35 if we want it. We have also a UV lights to control the bacterial load. And also we have a back filters to remove the suspended solids. So what I really want that you take today home, first of all, is water quality is critical. And we are, in some way, polluted our coastal water and affecting all of the ecosystems. And if you hear, either because it's polluted for chemicals, or either because it's temperature, or either because it's high levels of salinity or low levels of salinity. So also, I want that you consider if you want to run any operation, use your own organisms as a tool, a valuable tool to evaluate the health of your water. It's critical for algae. For example, optimize nutrient absorption. If you have a good water quality, you don't have high levels of bacteria, or you don't have any chemical like surfactants that basically affect directly the growth of the algae. It's good for running your operation for any larvae. I'm talking about queen conch, but for any larvae that you're going to use, shrimp larvae, fish larvae, because it improves survival rates. And if you are working as we are working in the restoration program, it's a key. It's a fundamental key. It's the first thing that when we go to any place, visit place, we collect sample and check the water quality in order to decide if that place is suitable or not. So with this, I finish my presentation. Thank you very much for being here. I'm so happy to have a lot of people here today.
Thank you, Robinson. We have time for questions.
So no question is good because everything
no
was clear.
questions? Yeah, you were very clear on your presentation. Okay, thank you so much, Robinson. Okay, next up is myself and my co-authors here. And today I will be, just going to start the timer on myself. Today I'm going to be speaking about eConch, which is an online course about growing queen conch for conservation and restoration in the Caribbean. And if I have the clicker here. Which one do I use? The right one. So as Robinson introduced to you, we have a queen conch lab that's at Florida Atlantic University, Harbor Branch Oceanographic Institute. And our mission is to grow conch for the sake of the species, for the sake of the ecosystem, and also for the island communities. And with our queen conch conservation aquaculture program, we do provide advantages for the island communities, such as diversified livelihoods for those that work with us, enhanced skills in the workforce, a lot of technology transfer, research for students, and much in terms of outreach and ecotourism. You saw this map earlier from Robinson. We started this program, the Queen Conch Lab program, in 2019. As many of you might know, I've been working with conch for over 40 years. So this is truly a time in my career that I have a lot of information that I want to make available during my legacy years and be able to train people throughout the Caribbean to be able to grow conch for the many reasons that I just spoke about. And these are some of the places that we are right now. So the eConc program, we actually started that about 2 or 3 years ago, and we did finish it in June. And it was done in collaboration with FAU Continuing Education Department at FAU. And eConc is easy to digest. You can move at your own pace. It's free for anybody that would like to take it. You'll have access to the experts on the team. And we have quite a lot of high-quality video that was taken at the Puerto Rico Aquaculture Center. And so this is in Puerto Rico. We started that program in 2019 in Naguabo, and it is a partnership that's funded by NOAA Fisheries. The partnership is with our strategic partner, Conservation Conciencia, and also the Naguabo Fishing Association. So we use that as the model place where the eConc was filmed. We have 7 different modules. Module 1 is an introduction to conch aquaculture, about plumbing, about water quality, about general systems. Module 2 is all about microalgae and culturing the feed that Robinson spoke about earlier. And then Module 3 is about collecting and hatching the egg masses. We do involve the fishermen. They do collect the egg masses. We do pay them to be involved in the project. They know where the conch are laying eggs. They bring back in the eggs. We talk about in the module how you process the eggs when they come in and how they hatch. And then Module 4 is all about the larval culture and the larval rearing. This is inside the hatchery. And you can see the eggs incubating and the small larvae there. And then Module 5 is all about metamorphosis and how we need a Q from the wild. We use a detrital Q that has the diatoms, which is the first food of the queen conch. So we have shallow trays where they go through metamorphosis with the Q involved. So the eConch program teaches all about how to identify metamorphosis, how to look and see when the veliger is ready for metamorphosis. And then Module 6 is all about juvenile culture. After metamorphosis, we raise the conch for about 1 year on shore, and then after that, they get released into the field. So in this module, you learn about recirculating systems, about making the food for them, and how to measure their growth. And then the last module in the series is all about restoration. And where's Martha? Martha, this was the slide that I was thinking about, because this was our program in Catalina Island in 2006, I think. And so we talk about how to prepare the site, how to find the sites for the restoration, and how to acclimate the conch before they're released. And this June was when we released eConch, and I was able to use the eConch for a training program that I taught in Grand Bahama at another one of our sites, the Grand Bahama Queen Conch Mariculture Center, which is funded by Builders Initiative. And we had students from Bahamas National Trust. I don't know if Davia is in the room. There you are. And so we had Bahamas National Trust. We had, which was funded by the Moore Charitable Foundation for her. We had actually Maya from the Island School, from the Moore Charitable Foundation, and then we had our staff at the Grand Bahama Center. So it was really great to be able to do the hands-on work with the students, but also have the backup of the eConch, where they could study it and learn in more depth. And so far, we've had 74 participants that have signed up for the eConch in almost the last 5 months. And we have 13 different countries that have been involved in the eConch. 13 so far have completed the course. Like, you can take it at your own pace, so there's no rush to finish the course, but it's always there as a reference. So once you sign up, you still have it available. And so we're hoping that maybe some of you might be interested. I'll give you the email of how you can sign up for the eConch course. And then I want to take this opportunity to introduce to you 2 other educational programs that we just started in Grand Bahama. One of them is called Conch in the Classroom, and it started this year. It's a collaborative program with Earth Care and Harbor Branch, and it's funded by the McPike Zima Foundation. And I want to give a special shout out to Sophie, who's here, for seeing the vision that we put forth to be able to train, not so much train, but be able to educate the students in the primary schools. And these are government primary schools. And so we have 4 lessons that we've developed, and those lessons are available for others if you'd like to make use of them. We put 2 conch in a 10-gallon aquarium in every primary school. And then we have the lessons about the shell, the life cycle, the fisheries and aquarium. We have lots of different activities. I want to acknowledge Amanda Matthews, that's also here, that put a lot of great effort into the lesson plans as well. So that's well on its way, and we have the excitement of also continuing this program for the future. And then the other program that we've just started is working with Water Keepers and Blue Action Lab, also in Grand Bahama. This is funded by the Moore Charitable Foundation, and it's a capacity building for developing future Grand Bahamian leaders in marine science and conservation. So in Puerto Rico, we have the stationary aquaculture hatchery, but in Grand Bahama and some of the other places in the Caribbean, we have these mobile labs, and here we are standing in front of one of the mobile labs. So we have up to 12 different what we call water cadets in high school that will be training with us over the next few, right now and also into the new year. And so we're very excited to be able to offer this program to teach new skills to the Bahamian high schoolers. And with this, I just want to wrap up by saying that the FAU Queen Conch Lab, all our partnerships are community-based. They have great significance in the community. They help with restoration of the population. They provide the diversified incomes. They provide aquaculture training and career development, and also provide the outreach. And with outreach, that leads to improved stewardship of the resources. And this wouldn't be possible, our work in the Caribbean with the Queen Conch, without our team, who you're actually going to hear from. You heard from Robinson, you're going to hear from Amanda today, and also Becky. And we have a new lab assistant with Dylan. We have an active Instagram site and LinkedIn. We appreciate if you'd like to learn more to contact us. And I want to just thank you for your time today, and I'm open for questions. Okay, thank you so much. And let me go back to my moderator station for the next speaker. Okay, so our next speaker will be Becky Holt, and she does work with the Queen Conch Lab also. She'll be presenting her work today virtually. And her title is Enhancing the Economics and Sustainability of Queen Conch Fisheries Through Value-Added Markets in Puerto Rico.
Hi, everyone. I'd like to start by Hi, everyone. My name is Becky Holt, and I am the Assistant Director of Florida Atlantic University Harbor Branch Oceanographic Institute's Queen Conch Lab. And first, let me just say that it is extremely hard to record these, harder than actually being there in person presenting. I think this is take 85. So, the title of my presentation today is Enhancing the Economics and Sustainability of Queen Conch Fisheries Through Value-Added Markets in Puerto Rico. And first, I'd like to thank SK NOAA for funding these 2 projects that we've been working incredibly hard on in Puerto Rico over the past 2 years. As well as I'd like to recognize our PI on the project, Dr. Megan Davis, and co-PI Raimundo Espinoza of Conservación Conciencia, as well as the Naguabo Fishing Association. I'd like to start by reviewing some facts about Puerto Rico's artisanal queen conch fishery. So queen conch is a critical economic resource for coastal communities. Innumerable livelihoods depend on the fishing of queen conch. And it's consumed locally with minimal export, and it's an important food source, sold for about $9 to $14 per pound. Environmental pressures have played a big role. The warming of the seas are pushing queen conch further out to sea, as I'm sure we all know. And fishing pressures have been having an impact as well. It's driving the need to dive deeper for these conch, with fewer conch being seen overall. And the conch shells are underutilized. Some shells are sold, but most are discarded at sea after the harvest. So we decided to get a little creative and come up with 2 new value-added markets for the queen conch, one focusing on the shell and the other focusing on the meat. And just to show you where it is we're talking about, here in Puerto Rico, as you can see at the marker, is Naguabo. It is a small fishing community. It's off the beaten path, and if you are just sort of a general tourist, but that is a huge part of its charm. It has a really beautiful malecon that families come down on the weekends, and they have a little food, a little drink, and they're down by the seaside, and it's a really lovely local spot. Our first project focused on income diversification for fishers. So our idea was that if the fishers were encouraged to sell the whole shell to a buyer on shore instead of discarding the shell at sea after the harvest of the animal, then they would be able to generate some additional income. So we paid the fishers from the Naguabo Fishing Association $3 per shell, and we, on the grant, purchased up to 400 shells per year, so 800 over the life of the project during the open season, and developed a market for the shells by connecting the fishers with interested buyers and creating an inventory for these shells. And we used these shells for the second piece of our project. The second part of the shell project was to host a 2-day workshop led by Dan Simmons of Wampumware Designs, based out in Montana. We hosted it at the Naguabo Aquaculture Center with 17 Puerto Rican licensed artists that came and learned from Dan about how to carve the queen conch shell. Many of them had been carving and creating in other materials, but had never utilized the queen conch shell. So it was really exciting and informative for them. This was a 2-day workshop, August 4th and 5th, and the goal was to create as much jewelry or ornaments as they could. So here are just some of the artisans that came to the 2-day workshop, and you can see here that they've all created beautiful pieces of jewelry just in those 2 days, some of them one day. And the excitement around this type of craft was so palpable, and they were so eager to learn. And many of them told us afterwards that they would be going right home to put this into practice because they knew, you know, they could sell it here and there and to this person and that person. And so we really were pleased with the response from the community. Here's an up-close view on some of these finished products. And, you know, these pieces can sell for anywhere from $40 to $200. So that kind of money in a small Puerto Rican community can be pretty impactful. The second value-added market that we were aiming to create was for the conch meat. And the goal was to enhance the culinary value of queen conch meat. And we did this in a couple different ways. So we partnered with Chef Martin Lusau to develop refined recipes featuring queen conch, which resulted in a cookbook called Connecting Cultures Through the Preparation of Queen Conch. And it featured recipes from across the Caribbean that were highlighting the queen conch meat. We also hosted an upscale dining event at Cocina Abierta, and that was Chef Martin's restaurant, which hosted many guests, and they tried all these different recipes that Chef had created for the evening featuring conch. And we made sure to purchase all of the conch meat from the Fishing Association. So here's an example of how we were trying to elevate the ingredient, going from something like your conch fritter to this beautiful scorched conch dish. In this cookbook, there's a narrative about queen conch and a history, and then each recipe is from a different island nation in the Caribbean, which is really cool. So we were hoping that through this, we could allow the reader to discover the culinary potential of queen conch. And this cookbook is free and open to the public on our website, queenconchlab.com. So ultimately, with these two new value-added markets, our goal was to have a broader impact, not only in Puerto Rico, but across the Caribbean. We could really see these two areas moving to different spots in Puerto Rico, different fishing communities, and throughout the Caribbean. I mean, these projects address conservation, resource recovery, and economic resiliency. Please feel free to reach out to us about this or any of our other projects. We have a lot more to share from these two value-added market projects that we put into play over the past 2 years. And we are really excited to share our knowledge about these with you.
Okay, we have Becky Holtz online if you'd like to ask any questions related to the presentation that Becky gave this morning. We have a couple questions here.
Thank you for your presentation. I will try to be clear. I don't know if my question will be understandable. Aren't you scared of creating a kind of black market of with valuating the shares of the conch? And second part of the question, if the proceeds of using the shell conch being multiplied, are you don't scared about we need a sand that shell can be sand after? How do you manage to get the equilibrium between the variable, the conch, and maybe the need of the environmental to get the conch back to the sea?
So I heard the first question. Maybe I'll get your help, Megan, with the second one. And if you'd like to jump in, feel free, Megan. So I think in terms of the black market question, in Puerto Rico, we've spoken about this with Conservación Conciencia, and their suggestion, is to encourage, these are fishers that we know. So part one would be not opening this up to fishers that we don't necessarily work with and that don't land the conch in places other than the Guabo Aquaculture Center, as well as we would only collect shells or purchase shells as a buyer from these fishermen during the open season. So closed season purchasing would be unacceptable. And that second part of the question, I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch it.
Yeah, thank you for your response. It helped. And for the second part, it's more about the if the use of the shell for the gyres and another thing been multiplied, aren't you scared of the loss to the environment from the shell, because shell makes sand after, if it's being, I don't know, yeah, there's less shelf for.
No, I get, I
You
got
get
you.
it?
That's a really interesting question. And I think in this case, I wouldn't be fearful of that because the scale at which artisans could create, and the speed at which they would create would never even come close to deterring a shell from converting into sand. But that's really interesting. And I think one other thing I didn't mention in the presentation was that in a lot of Caribbean countries, shells are taken from those waters and transported to places like China to be manufactured into ornaments, jewelry, and then they are shipped back to that Caribbean nation. So if you're just thinking about the efficiency and the global trade efficiency of that, I think we can really bring those funds back to the communities and create something that I think tourists would also be more excited to purchase than something that was made in China.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for those questions. I think Martha has a question up front here.
Thank you, Megan and Becky and the entire team for your all hard work through these years. I guess we have these experiences really deep in our hearts because you have been working with so many fishers, women, school kids, and so. So first of all, I just wanted to say thank you. And second, I was also thinking on regulations, of course. I'm the regulation too. And I agree with our previous question because I think in the case of San Andres in Colombia, there always have been this kind of conflicting views about the use of the queen conch shell. The fisheries authorities says that following FAO good practices on fishing, once you caught a resource out at sea, it's recommended that you utilize everything that comes from that resource. So that is one fact. On the other side, conservation authorities said in the law that you cannot allow to take any calcareous organisms out of either the beach, on the water, or whatever. So there is always this kind of conflicting views that I guess is a good step to start talking about, and talking about the benefits or pros and cons on each one, and in particularly in the work that Becky presented us today, I was, and some practice that we also did similar work in San Andres too. Usually those work is conducted by women in regular times, and so that is give the opportunity to women to also participate in the benefits of the fishery. Thank you.
Yes, yes, Martha, yes, yes. It's really important to mention the impact that this could have on women and children and their families, being able to bring them into some of the profit from queen conch fishing.
Thank you, Martha, and thank you, Becky. Are there any other questions? We have a question in the back. We have time for this last question.
Good afternoon. Very quick question. How many pieces of jewelry can you get from one conch shell?
Ooh, I love that question. So Robinson, I love that question. Robinson Berserto was there too, and I think what we would say is it all depends on what you're trying to create. I mean, it seems like you could get a lot of pieces out of one shell. You could do some of the common things that they were aiming to make were different sets of earrings. So you could do like stud earrings, and those are so small. So you could imagine how many you could get out of one conch shell. Stud earrings, dangly earrings, the ones that Megan is wearing right now, I believe was part of that batch, as well as her necklace. And so there's a couple different things you could do there. You could do wine stoppers, you could do carved ornaments for decorating your Christmas tree. You could, I made the one thing I made there while I was working was a conch marble. So I made a marble for my 4-year-old. And so I think that the possibilities are endless. I think what Robinson and I would say is that when you're working with that shell, you're looking for, you would create different pieces based on the thickness of that part of the shell. So like the thicker part could be used for making a conch marble because you'd have to round it and you want it to be a good size. You know, the thinner parts could be really like dainty jewelry or pieces of a ring that you could then collaborate with other artisans in Puerto Rico, for instance, like silversmiths that could create it into jewelry. So I'll stop rambling, but that's my answer.
Yeah, I was with Becky. We took the training together in Wow, Puerto Rico. And I can say, like, from one conch, if you feel the passion to work with the shell, cotton, you have, I can say probably like 40, 50 different pieces. And the deeper that you go, the more creative you are. So I went to the end, the shell, where is the last piece of the shell, and I did a necklace, and a lot of people love it. And I did a spiral, and I did rings, and I did many things. It's your creativity. So you get so deeper, it's like being deeper in the ocean and see new things. So it's just amazing. It's a lot of passion, and you can spend hours and hours if you love to do it. I enjoy it, and I was just telling Megan I want to buy a saw and still continue working with that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Becky, very much. Another round of applause for Becky. Okay, our next speaker will be speaking in Spanish, so if you need to prepare for the translation. And it will be a virtual presentation, but it's a live virtual. It's from Andrea Ramirez. She'll be talking about the economic valuation of lobster fishery in the Caribbean of Guatemala.
Muchísimas gracias a todos. Buenos días. Presentamos en colaboración con el Centro Universitario de Izabal y Fundaeco, a quien represento, la valoración económica de la pesquería de langosta espinosa. La próxima, por favor. Y para esto queremos dar un poco de contexto. Gracias. Esta pesquería es histórica de las comunidades de Cabo Tres Puntas, San Francisco del Mar y el Quetzalito. Llevan décadas haciéndola, sin embargo fue normada hasta el año 2002 a través de la Ley de Pesca y Acuicultura de Guatemala y posteriormente en el 2005 a través de un acuerdo gubernativo que establecía su reglamento. Se homogenizó en toda la región a partir del Reglamento Regional de Ospesca en el año 2009, en donde se declararon algunas normas representativas al esfuerzo pesquero. Para ayudar a conservar al mismo tiempo el Estado de Guatemala, acuerda a través del Ministerio, a través del Acuerdo Ministerial 85-2020, la zona de veda espacial marina Corona Caimán, ya que tiene una importancia enorme en el ecosistema. Y si bien es cierto que todos estos esfuerzos se han hecho con el fin de conservar, esta vez quisimos presentar el efecto social que tiene y la valoración económica es importante para esto. La próxima, por favor. Gracias. Entonces, como objetivo general, nuestra intención es evaluar la importancia económica que tiene esta pesquería para las comunidades del Caribe que ya hemos mencionado, y para esto tuvimos que hacer una caracterización de la pesca, describir la dinámica de ingresos y egresos y posteriormente comparar con la situación a nivel nacional. La próxima, por favor. Gracias. Bueno, no voy a entrar mucho en materia por el tiempo, solo la metodología que utilizamos fue la valoración económica por precios de mercado, puesto que ya está establecida este mercado con una audiencia meta que era pescadores, intermediarios, con 13 escalas de intermediarios y el consumidor final. A través de encuestas, esta fue la herramienta utilizada para colectar esta información. La próxima, por favor. La próxima. Y bueno, una de las cosas que necesitamos compartir es que en Guatemala la forma, si bien es cierto que es artesanal, en la que se extrae la langosta es a través del trasmayo de fondo. Estos trasmayos suelen llegar a alcanzar hasta longitudes de 300 metros para San Francisco del Mar y 600 metros para el Quetzalito. La próxima, por favor. Y bueno, algo que es interesante es que cuando quisimos saber en dónde estaba, si pueden ver este cuadrante, nos dimos cuenta que el Quetzalito, ellos pescan alrededor de esta zona que está este polígono que se llama Motagüía, que es caracterizado por sus fondos lodosos, mientras que en el caso de San Francisco del Mar y Cabo Tres Puntas, su pesca está desde los 4 hasta los 22 kilómetros, pero su flota pesquera se concentra de los 8 a los 16. Sin embargo, justamente aquí se traslapa la zona de veda Corona Caimán, lo que implica que a partir del establecimiento de esta zona hay una reducción de espacios para pescar para estas comunidades. La próxima, por favor. Y bueno, algo que nos pareció muy interesante y queremos traer a colación es que considerando las longitudes, cada pescador o la mayoría de ellos tiene entre 7 a 8 artes de pesca con un promedio de 5 artes a nivel global. La próxima, por favor. Y bueno, ¿cuánto es lo que captura? Cuando hablamos de comparación entre Guatemala y los otros países de Centroamérica, pues Guatemala captura muy poca langosta. En temporada alta, ellos alcanzan hasta los 45 libras por faena, mientras que en temporada baja puede caer hasta los 0 a 4 libras por faena. Vamos a la próxima, por favor. Y bueno, ¿cuál es el precio de venta? En la actualidad, los pescadores a ese nivel, allí en sus comunidades, puesto que algo que no mencioné es que estas comunidades no tienen carreteras, no tienen acceso a electricidad, tampoco tienen establecido como un canal para distribuir su producto. Entonces los pescadores obligatoriamente tienen que vender de forma local a una persona que generalmente es la que ya tiene la capacidad para empezar a iniciar una cadena fría y luego trasladarlo a más lugares. Pero debido a la plataforma social de esta zona, estos deben de vender ahí y sus ventas andan alrededor de los 33.50 quetzales. Y en la próxima, por favor. Y bueno, algo que quisimos rescatar y comentar, y esto fue creado a través de autoridades comunales e inspectores pesqueros, es que las comunidades de Quetzalito en temporada buena depende el 80% de la comunidad de esta, mientras que en temporada baja el 20%. Todo San Francisco del Mar, el 50% de su comunidad depende de esta pesquería. Cabo Tres Puntas, entre el 80 al 100% de la comunidad dependen de esta pesquería, mientras que Punta de Manabique únicamente el 10 al 20% dependen de esto. ¿Por qué es importante mencionar esto? Porque aquí y acá nos hemos dado cuenta que en la parte de Quetzalito, en donde hay más accesibilidad y hay un proyecto del Ministerio de Salud que contrata a personas locales para atender la colecta y manejo de desechos debido a los grandes problemas que crea la desembocadura del río Motagua en condiciones de plásticos, y justo ellos que se dedican a cuidar chalets privados de personas dueñas que son dueños y generalmente viven en la ciudad capital, ellos poco a poco han logrado migrar de la pesca a otras actividades económicas, puesto que hay una plataforma. Sin embargo, estas dos comunidades siguen sin tener una opción a dónde saltar. La próxima, por favor. La próxima. Y bueno, vamos a rápidamente presentar la cadena de valor porque ya no tengo mucho tiempo. Y es que a partir de que ellos instalan el 1 de julio, sus mayas hacen una revisión cada 2 días aproximadamente de las redes, extraen ese producto, lo llevan a su comunidad, lo venden a un productor y luego de esto, lo lleva a un acopiadero que también está en Puerto Barrios y de Puerto Barrios se distribuye a la ciudad capital y también a mercados locales y consumidor final. La próxima, por favor. Si pueden ver en la próxima tabla, veremos que este es el precio que logra obtener el pescador. Sin embargo, poco a poco va aumentando, aunque no aumenta en tan grande escala con los acopiadores. Y es hasta aquí en donde notamos el aumento. ¿Y cuál es? Este es el mercado o la terminal, que es el mayor mercado en la ciudad Guatemala, en donde redistribuyen a otros lugares y estos son los ingresos o los precios de venta en los restaurantes, en donde pueden haber precios bajos y también muy altos. La próxima, por favor. Entonces, lo que podemos ver acá, ya hablando en números y cuando esto fue validado por pescadores de la zona, para el año 2022 al 2023, los ingresos de la pesquería de langosta representaron alrededor de $700,000, mientras que los costos totales, ojo con esto, los costos principales son el combustible, que obviamente les llega mucho más caro por las condiciones y que tristemente la persona que vende el combustible es la misma persona que compra la langosta y que hace la salida del producto hasta Puerto Barrios. Sus costos totales son de $327,000 aproximadamente, con un margen bruto de $377,000. Pero cuando esto ya lo llevamos al pescador individual, nos damos cuenta que en los meses que él puede capturar langosta, ellos pueden tener ingresos en total de alrededor de 22,019 quetzales, que esto es alrededor de $2,862, y un ingreso individual por mes de 2,446 quetzales, que esto es alrededor de $318. Ahora, si lo comparamos con los índices del Banco Mundial que establecen cuál es como la pobreza extrema, entendemos que el pescador no está por debajo de los $5 diarios. La próxima, por favor. Sin embargo, debemos de considerar algunas cosas y esta es una comparativa de la economía nacional. En la parte más baja observamos los ingresos mensuales de los pescadores con un corte debido a la veda establecida desde el mes de febrero a junio. Le sigue el sueldo, el salario mínimo agrícola que establece el país para las personas rurales. Esto implica que un pescador gana por debajo a cualquier persona que estuviera contratada en alguna finca realizando actividades agrícolas, ganaderas o porcinas. Y luego de esto vamos a ver que por arriba cuesta 3,698 quetzales cubrir en Guatemala la canasta básica, o sea, para que alguien pueda comprar la comida que necesita, para que pueda cubrirse una familia de aproximadamente 4 personas, yo tengo esta cantidad, por lo tanto, un pescador cada mes tiene un déficit de 1,000 quetzales para poder alcanzar este precio. Y por último, si quisiéramos compararla con la canasta básica amplificada que conlleva alquileres, pago de servicios, educación de los niños, tendría que tener un ingreso de 8.539 quetzales. Por lo tanto, estos dos números son están bastante separados. La próxima, por favor. Y bueno, alrededor, para responder la pregunta de la valoración económica, el periodo de 2022 a 2023, la valoración económica de la pesquería de langosta fue de alrededor de $350.239. Seguimos para las conclusiones, por favor. Y algo que necesitamos concluir es que la economía de las comunidades de Manabique dependen enteramente del recurso, especialmente Cabo Tres Puntas y San Francisco del Mar. La diversificación económica en estas actividades es complicado debido a que el gobierno por muchas décadas ha olvidado estas comunidades, no ha habido la suficiente inversión para que ellos puedan acceder con facilidad a otros negocios o para que hayan inversionistas encargados o interesados en venir a esto. Otra de las cosas que podemos conocer es que los pescadores sí conocían los reglamentos, pero hay alguna resistencia en el cumplimiento debido a esta necesidad económica. Y bueno, también dentro de todo se evidenció que si bien es cierto que tenemos baja captura, nuestros números que se registran no coinciden con los números reales, por lo tanto hay una subestimación de los datos estadísticos. Gracias. Y la próxima, por favor. La próxima, y muchísimas gracias por su atención.
Thank you so much, Andrea. We have time for one quick question. We have a question over here. Will Hyman?
Gracias para su presentación. Tengo dos preguntas rápidamente. El primero es, y lo siento que no he oído, pero el equipo que se usan los pescadores para capturar las langostas, quiero entender lo que es. Y el otro es,
sí.
El otro es, y es lo suyo, el otro es solamente si ellos en las dos comunidades tienes otros blancas de producto como pargos o otra cosa que está buscando. Muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias. Gran parte del problema que tenemos en Guatemala es que lo que utilizan los pescadores es el trasmayo de fondo. El trasmayo de fondo, que por cierto no está reglamentado dentro del reglamento que emite Ospesca en el año 2009 y que ratifica Guatemala, porque nosotros no pescamos con las nazas o las casitas cubanas, que son estos proyectos que se realizan en otros lugares. Aquí nuestros pescadores usan estos trasmayos y uno de los grandes desafíos es de que pues no es posible, aparte que hay mucha pesca incidental, puesto que no es como una pesca directa. Aparte de eso, no es ni siquiera aprovechable este recurso debido a que ellos llegan a revisar las mallas cada 3 días. Y si hay algún mal tiempo o si no hubo dinero, pues estas mallas van a pasar de 4 a 5 días. Entonces es todo un reto hacer este salto de usar trasmayos de fondos a usar artes de pesca que sean mucho más selectivas. No sé si respondí la pregunta número 1 y la número 2. Debido a las condiciones digamos que de corrientes y de oleajes en esta zona, únicamente se pesca la langosta y está empezando a despegar, y esperemos que no sea tanto, y por eso es importante saltar la pesca de tiburón. Gracias. Perdón, solo lo olvidé. Sin embargo, la pesca de tiburón está registrándose más en la comunidad de Quetzalito, mientras que Cabo Tres Puntas y San Francisco del Mar exclusivamente pescan langosta.
Thank you so much, Andrea. we appreciate you attending virtually. Okay, we're going to move on to our next speaker, Amanda Matthews, also with the FAU Queen Conch Lab, and she'll be speaking about reliable milk conch captive breeding population helps to pave the way to establish a queen conch captive breeding population. Thank you, Amanda.
Hi, good morning. My name is Amanda Matthews. I'm the Research and Education Coordinator at the FAU Queen Conch Lab at Harbor Branch Oceanographic Institute, and today I'll be presenting on our milk conch captive breeding population and how they're helping to pave the way to establish a queen conch captive breeding population. And here you can see we have two milk conch who are engaged in copulation. The female is in the front and the male is behind. And you can see on the left side of the female's shell her egg mass that she's laying. So they'll often lay eggs and mate at the same time. So the reason why we're working with the milk conch is because they're a very close relative to the queen conch, the lombi. They are just a little bit smaller and they're white instead of pink, which is why they're called milk conch. And we name all of the milk conch in our breeding colony. They all have milk or dairy themed names. So we started with one solo female milk conch and we named her Buttercream. And we originally got her from the Harbor Branch Visitor Center Aquarium. They had her in the aquarium and they weren't able to grow enough algae for her because they were cleaning the aquarium and keeping it clean. And they require a lot of algae to graze on. So they gave her to us and we decided to try a new novel algae diet on her. And she ended up laying about a dozen unfertilized egg masses, which was really unusual, and she wasn't around any male conch. So with these good preliminary results, we decided to try to establish a milk conch breeding population. So here's another image of the milk conch breeding there in the middle. That's Buttercream with her new boyfriend, Colby Jack. And she likes to eat algae while she mates. And then on the left is a photo of her and one of her first unfertilized egg masses. And then there's another milk conch over here on the right. So the goal of this project was to develop a captive breeding colony of milk conch and then transfer this technology to the queen conch, because at this point for queen conch aquaculture, we are reliant on wild egg masses. So we take a portion of the wild egg mass from the queen conch to culture it in captivity. So we have three objectives. The first is to determine the fecundity of the milk conch breeding population based on number of egg masses produced per week. And the second is to investigate the quality of eggs produced by the females. So we're looking at if they're fertilized or not. And then we're also taking some different egg morphometrics like capsule diameter, number of eggs per millimeter, and some different qualities of the egg mass. And then we want to investigate the relationship between the number of egg masses produced by the breeding colony and the temperature of the water. So we acquired 15 more milk conch from the Florida Keys, and Dawn De Maria, who some of you might know, actually collected the milk conch for us from Bahia Honda State Park. And we have them set up in one tank on flow-through seawater from our saltwater well. And then we have them separated by baskets. So there's 2 females and 2 males per basket, and one basket has 3 females and 1 male. And there's 9 females, 7 males. And this new novel algae diet that we are working with are called algal turf scrubbers. And these are often used in water treatment facilities to remove the dissolved nutrients from the wastewater. So we're doing something similar here where we use the water from our integrated multi-trophic aquaculture system. So this is a system where we're simultaneously culturing multiple species from different trophic levels. So we have red drum, pompano, and shrimp that produce the wastewater. And then we flow this water over screens on an angle, and then we get a nice thick layer of diatom growth. And then these are about 12 by 12 screens, and each basket of conch gets 1 screen per day. And previously, we've used an Ulva lactuca sea lettuce-based gel diet, and that shows some egg production, but really not anywhere close to the level that we saw in this study. And you can see, here's our breeding colony grazing on the algae, and you can see where they've eaten that algae, where you can see through the screen. And then this is our algae setup. We have it outside, so we're just using the nutrient water and sunlight. And for our methods of this study, we kept the sand very clean. It's really important to provide an ideal environment for egg laying. So we cleaned it in between feedings, and then we did a weekly deep clean. We took temperature and salinity daily, and we took water quality weekly. And for the egg masses, we got the volume of the egg mass by seeing how much water it displaced in a beaker. And this photo here on the right shows our intern obtaining the volume of the egg mass. And then once we know how many eggs per millimeter are in that egg mass, we can extrapolate and estimate the number of eggs in that egg mass. And then the photo in the center is a close-up of one of the egg masses produced by the breeding colony. And if you look closely, you can see all those little white dots are the eggs. And then this is one of our best egg layers, Guy. She's laying an egg mass over here on the left. So you can see that crescent shape that's formed around her lip. So she's gone all the way around and made this really large egg mass. Here are some of the water quality results. In addition to these parameters, we also took magnesium, phosphorus, and calcium. So ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate were all within the healthy ranges during this study. Ammonia was well below 0.5. And then over on the right, we have pH and alkalinity. And pH ranged from about 7.5 to 7.8, and then alkalinity was about 130 to 170. And this is all from our saltwater well water. And then here are some of the fecundity results. So from April 1st to October 25th, we received 224 egg masses. And then our technician who was watching over the conch while we're here in Guadalupe let us know that they laid another egg mass on November 3rd. And we have an average of seven egg masses per week. And the egg mass was related to water temperature. So on this figure here, the water temperature weekly average is in orange, and then the weekly egg mass count is in this bluish gray color. So you can see that as temperature increased, so did the number of egg masses that were laid until about week 19-20, when the temperature reached about 29.5, and that was too warm for the conch to maintain that high level of egg production. So we put a chiller on the system at about week 23, and then that increased our egg production once again. And then as we went into the fall months and the well water naturally got colder, with the fall season, our egg production went back down. So 76% of these egg masses were fertilized, and 32 of them at least were buttercreams, that original milk conch. And she did lay some fertilized egg masses. And then over here in the bottom right corner is one of the milk conch veligers from one of the mothers named Gorgonzola. And some important takeaways from this study is that captive breeding populations are possible for milk conch, and there was a much higher productivity in this study on the algal turf scrubbers compared to the ulva-based gel diet that was previously used in our lab. In that study, they had a maximum productivity of about 1.5 egg masses per week, and our maximum productivity was about 17 egg masses per week. So temperature plays a really critical role, as well as the algal turf scrubber providing that nutrition that they need for mating and spawning, and the cleanliness of the sand substrate. And then this is Coconut, one of our other best egg layers, and she was actually the first one to lay a fertilized egg mass on April 10th. So some of the things we want to look at in the future are the male to female ratios on egg mass production. So is it better to have 3 females to 1 male, or 2 males to 2 females? We want to look at temperature control for off-season production. Can we manipulate egg mass production by manipulating temperature? And then we're going to raise some milk conch larvae in our new queen conch mobile lab that was just finished this year. And then we're going to use these findings to help establish a queen conch captive breeding population. And on the left is a photo of our mobile lab here. And then you can see one of our competent milk conch veligers over here on the right with the elongated swimming lobes. And this one is just about to go into settlement. And if you would like to contact us and learn more, you can follow us on Instagram. We have LinkedIn and our website right here. Megan runs a really amazing Instagram. It's very informative. And I'll see if I can get this video to play. This is Gouda laying an egg mass. So she's taking her proboscis and her foot, and she's forming that egg mass very meticulously. And with that, I'll take any questions.
So much movability with your foot. Thank you, Amanda. We have time for questions. Thank you, Ron.
This is really interesting work. Thanks for presenting it. How do you actually clean the sand?
We siphon it. We siphon the feces out and any uneaten food, but they pretty much eat all the food. A very good appetite.
I think the Kingston Trio should make a song with the names of the milk conch. Any other questions?
I was wondering in terms of fecundity, as far as number of viable eggs per egg mass, is it pretty comparable to a wild produced egg mass, or have you looked into that at all?
Yeah, it just depends on the size of the egg mass. There were certain females that seemed to produce really, really large egg masses, like Guy. She was known for it. And then we have some smaller females that would make smaller egg masses, so it averaged probably 200,000 to 300,000 eggs per egg mass, so quite a lot.
That's great. Thank you, Amanda. Okay, our last speaker of the session is Zara Lopez, and she'll be speaking about marine litter source, fate, and concentration in the Caribbean of Honduras. Thank you, Zara.
Oh, hello. Hola. Bonjour. Thank you, everyone, for staying. I promise I'm going to be quick, so don't start. Please hold. Tell your bellies to hold a little bit more. I want to start by thanking the Invertebrates session for adopting me. I'm the only one. I was alone, and thank you. But yeah, so my name is Sara Zuniga, and today I'm going to talk about my master thesis, which has by title Marine Litter Source, Fate, and Concentrations in the Bay Islands of Honduras. I'm from Carleton University, and I'm happy to share this work with my thesis supervisor, Jesse Vermeer, and my colleague from BICA, Luis Flores. So let's start by talking about what is marine litter, also known as marine debris. And marine litter is defined as any persistent man-made solid material discarded in the marine and coastal ecosystem. Now, as you can imagine, plastic is the main component of marine litter. And in the Western Caribbean, it is a big problem because it is estimated that thousands of tons of plastic waste flow into the Gulf of Honduras each year from the Motagua River in Guatemala and various Honduran rivers. This is a photo of what we suffer every year, and the back is the Bay Islands of Honduras. Now, despite the importance of this issue, only 66 peer-reviewed studies have been published in marine litter and microplastic in the Caribbean large marine ecosystem in a 40-year period between 1980 and 2020. And with only 4 studies focusing on mangrove forests. Now, mangrove forests are a very cool ecosystem, and they have shown to trap more litter density than other ecosystems like beaches because of their aerial root system. And although studies on the effects of plastic in mangroves are limited, findings suggest that plastic accumulation can obstruct root growth and adversely affect associated fauna. Therefore, the objectives for this first part of my thesis is to determine the current concentration, composition, and origin of marine litter present in the mangrove forest of Roatan, and also analyze the composition and abundance of litter in the digestive system of a post-mortem American crocodile. The study site is located in the beautiful Bay Islands of Honduras, which is that area highlighted in blue in the Western Caribbean. The island that we chose is the island of Roatan, and we sample along 4 mangrove sites, 2 in the east side of the island and 2 in the most western side, here. The mangrove forests were dominated by Rhizophora mangle or red mangrove, and we sample along the seaward edge. Now, the Bay Islands are recognized for being home to the second largest coral reef ecosystem. I know we haven't talked too much about this part of the Caribbean yet, but we are a very special place. We have 3 Ramsar sites, which means there are wetlands designated to be of international importance by the Ramsar Convention. The sampling method that we did is that at each site, we delimited 5 quadrants of 5 meters, and all the litter greater than 5 centimeters was picked, counted, and weighted, and also analyzed according to the OSPAR guidelines. For that litter that had information about the country of production and the brand, we also recorded that information. And as a result, we collected a total of 3,417 litter items across the 4 sites and the 20 quadrants. As you can see in the pie chart, plastic was the most abundant category, composing 97% of the total litter collected, followed by sanitary waste, which was mostly toothbrush and toothpaste, and metal category, which was mostly cans. Now, like you can see that the litter composition varied from 1.43 in the eastern side of the island, San Helene North, to 15.81 items per meter square. And you can see that the results varied quite a bit, and we believe that this might be due to factors like topography, root density, elevation, currents, factors that we will definitely evaluate for our future analysis. We will see the correlation of these factors with marine litter concentration. And what you see here is the top 10 items in terms of abundance and mass across all the study. In the x-axis, you can see the item's name, and in parentheses, you have the OSPAR ID, which you have photos for references on the site. In the y-axis, you can see the percentage of litter per site, here with colors, and the curve represents the cumulative percentage of all the litter documented in this study. So the top 10 items out of the 69 items across all the study sites accounted for an astonishing 85% of the total litter reported in both in terms of mass and abundance. If you look a little bit closer, crisp seed packets, which is number 19, which is these bags of candies and snacks, chips, plastic pieces, drink bottles, and cutlery, which also includes the straws, accounted for an astonishing 76% of all the litter in terms of abundance. Now, these reports are concerning because the municipality of Roatan has banned single-use plastic, such as plastic straws, plastic bottles, expanded polystyrene since 2019. And the continued presence of these items jeopardizes the effectiveness of plastic ban policies in the Bay Islands of Roatan and put at risk these policies that are subject to renewal with each new government on the island. In terms of country of production, we found that Guatemala was the most reported country. Oh, sorry, we were only able to identify the country of origin for 2.2% of the total litter in this study. And yeah, Guatemala was the most reported country, followed closely by Honduras with 37%. And we have also some important results from Haiti, Mexico, and Jamaica. But when we see the whole picture, we can see that 63% of all the litter came from foreign sources, and 37% from Honduras. We don't know if it's from the island itself, since we know that a lot of litter from the mainland of Honduras comes to the Bay Islands. And then in terms of parent company, Grupo PDC was the most reported company through the plastic bags of Clorox. And this is a Grupo PDC as a company only in Central America and Peru, and followed closely by Coca-Cola Company, which is a very common report in brand audit studies, and Colgate and Palmolive, mostly through toothbrushes. Now, I want to apologize to the Invertebrates station for showing a crocodile in their station. I hope you can forgive me. I know they are vertebrates, by the way. But we found this American crocodile dead in 2022 on the island of Roatan in the French Harbor community. The mangrove forests are the main habitat of crocodiles in the Bay Islands. And in the process of necropsy, we found a total of 20 liter items inside the stomach of this crocodile. The items included plastic bags, forks, straws, a big sack of 70 centimeters. And what we did here, what you can see here is an exploratory principal component analysis. And what we wanted to see is which mangrove forest had litter in similar composition to that one found inside of the crocodile. And what you can see here is that the French Harbor site is clustering with the mangrove, with the French Harbor site is clustering with the crocodile information, which suggests that they have litter in similar composition. And more important, this code here is for small plastic bags. I'm sorry, you cannot see it too clearly. But this suggests that they have litter, the small plastic bags are an important factor driving this clustering. As a conclusion, 5 years ago, the municipality of Roatan banned straws, bottles, plastic bags, and expanded polystyrene. Yet, in our study, we found these items among the top 10 items in terms of both abundance and mass. Interestingly, 63% of the items with a recognizable country of origin came from a foreign source. This only highlights the urgent need of policies, ban policies to be expanded at a regional level if we want to effectively prevent plastics from infiltrating in our ecosystems. Finally, marine litter is already impacting wildlife associated with mangroves in the Bay Islands, and the fact that the litter inside the stomach of the crocodile had litter in similar composition to that one in French Harbor underscores the serious consequences of plastic pollution in local fauna. And for our next steps, we want to go back to the study site in December for my second field trip. And during this trip, we're going to collect and install water level data loggers and assess the rudicity per quadrat. Since our quadrants are already defined, we want to know if there's new litter accumulated over the past 8 months. And additionally, we aim to trace the path of the litter coming out of the Motagua River in Guatemala through these satellite trackers, a project that is already ongoing, and we have very cool results, and I hope to share these ones in the next GCFI. And finally, I just want to acknowledge the people, NGOs, institutions that helped me conduct all this work. Here are some references. Thank you for your attention, and I'm open for questions. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Zara. We have time for questions.
Great job, Zara. Congratulations on your first presentation here. I love the fact that you've actually identified the corporate origin of waste where possible and identified the companies responsible. I noticed Procter & Gamble, for example, is in there, and I believe they have a corporate social environmental policy. Can we use this to reach out to them? Has anybody approached these companies yet, or is that in mind as a way to raise funding and try and address the issue through that source?
Thank you, Emma. And this is a very interesting comment. We haven't done it yet, but we work with Break Free from Plastic, which is a very big NGO focusing on these brand audits and reaching out to those companies and tell them, hey, this is your garbage, and it's affecting our fauna, and it's affecting our mangroves. So it's something I haven't considered, but since I'm working closely with co-managers of the Bay Islands National Marine Park, I'm gonna be happy to suggest this and yeah, continue with the work. Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions?
Hi, congrats on your presentation and all the work that you've been doing. The Roatan municipality already banned certain items. Based on your research, what other major item would you ban in the area that you would say has a lot of impact?
Thank you, Maria. That's a very good question too. Can I go back? I love this graph that we show because of that, because you can see that on the top 10 items, you can see what items are taking all the part on the litter accumulated in the mangroves. So here we can see the crescent seed packets, which is these bags of snacks, are accounting for 48% of the total litter in terms of abundance. So I will focus on these items that are really at the beginning of that are taking more part of the total litter recorded. So these 4 items are accounted for 76% of all the litter in terms of abundance, and these ones in terms of mass. So I will focus definitely in those, out of those 10, in the top 5 at least, or start with the ones that are taking more percentage on the total litter in this study. So this is something that we hope to talk with the municipality of Roatan and hopefully with more actors in the region.
Time for another question?
Hi, I'm still like overwhelmed with the first slide that you showed with all the garbage coming out from the river in Guatemala. And this may be completely ignorant on my part, but has there been an attempt to gather that? It seemed like it was all, there ready to collect. Is that possible?
Yeah, so there's already 2 of the biggest NGOs that work with plastic pollution. So we have the 4 Oceans, which are focused on the Quetzalito. So you saw the study side of the girl from Guatemala, no long ago. She explained like a little bit of what's going on. And they are collecting all the bottles, mostly bottles that they can recycle and resell, and they collect them at the outlet of the Motagua River, which is the biggest source of pollution. And then there's the ocean cleanup in the Motagua River, because the Motagua River estimations say, like the government of Guatemala is saying that it's as much as 20,000 tons of litter every year coming out of there. And this is because the Motagua River is somehow connected to the landfill of Guatemala City, which is 350 kilometers away from the Western Caribbean, and it still reaches the ocean. So it's tons of litter polluting our ecosystems. And this is the Mesoamerican reef that we are talking about. It's like affecting reef, it's affecting raptor sites, it's affecting marine protected areas. And yeah, so right now there's the ocean cleanup with these big interceptors that they put in the most polluted rivers in the world. And they are working there. They had 2. And even if they had 2, there's a lot of trash is still passing because we cannot focus on picking up trash. We need to focus on the source, which is the landfill, which is the plastic pollution. More plastic we create, more plastic we will find in our ecosystems. So hope I answered your question.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you
That's
so
great.
much. Sorry. I just want to extend an invitation to those interested in marine litter. We're going to meet here just a couple 30 minutes to discuss about working opportunities together.
That's great. I want to thank also all the speakers in the invertebrate and marine litter session today, and enjoy your lunch.
And if you haven't already voted, please remember to vote for your favorite film on the app. Just go to the Cinefish agenda item and cast your vote for your favorite film. Please no voter pattern or binder votes.